Another polycule liberal was not very happy with my video about how Hassan Piker helps liberal Zionism, and they decided to make a video that just provides another great example of Jewish exceptionalism and literally nothing more. And we're going to address it and give them precisely the same amount of courtesy that they gave to actually responding to my video, which is zero. There is something that makes liberals who call themselves anarchists because it sounds cooler extremely uncomfortable about the notion that they benefit from imperialism and colonialism. And they will do absolutely fucking anything to pretend otherwise in this completely unmaterialistic, idealistic way that does not hold up to any sort of objective analysis of reality. And you make them uncomfortable by pointing out otherwise that yes, people do in fact benefit from imperialism and colonialism, and their interests do in fact align with those things. They resort entirely to idealistic appeals to identity, to notions of but this makes me feel bad. And that's precisely what this is and precisely what every single response to me on this has been. So first thing that you need to know here is that if you see someone who does this thing where they only talk in all lowercase as if they're a detached 12-year-old trying to seem cool, run the fuck away. You can't be an adult doing that shit without it being a giant red flag. And this is precisely one of those people. Lonerbox does it, and it's not surprising at all that this guy's views align perfectly with those of Lonerbox. Now, this video is 19 minutes long, okay? It's 19 minutes long. The video that it pertains to be responding to, it is 42 minutes long. And that's also not my only video on the topic. I also have another 24-minute video on the topic. I have many videos about this specific topic where I talk about this at least 5 hours around that. I have another 1 hour and 30-minute video on this topic. I have another 30-minute video on this topic, 25-minute video on this topic. And this guy responding to me and pertaining to debunk me on this topic somehow makes a video that is half the duration of the video that he pertains to be debunking. It's simply not possible to respond to someone unless you're straight up leaving out what they're saying, because otherwise you know that you would lose an argument to an inanimate video. And you would be losing that argument with that inanimate video in your own carefully edited response video, no less. A remotely adequate response, unless you're just sort of taking the piss, it should be at least 1.5 times longer, ideally 2 times longer. Otherwise, you're clearly not actually showing what the other person is saying. You're clearly strawmanning them. You're clearly not actually arguing against them, but arguing against your own characterization of what they're saying without showing the people watching what they actually said so they can judge for themselves if you are accurately characterizing what they're saying. So there's no way this is an adequate response at all. The fact that he is leaving out such a massive amount of things that I have said on this topic, 3 to 4 hours of videos on the topic, means that he simply cannot be responding in any honest way. So I'm going to give him the exact same courtesy that he gave me. I'm not going to show you even a second of what he said. I'm in fact going to close this video right now, and I'm going to give you my own summary of what he said, which is incredibly stupid. He made an entire 2 attempted points in this video that is basically, how dare you hurt my liberal feelings? I don't benefit from imperialism. How dare you say that? And how dare you say mean things about Hassan Piker? So the first point that he tried to make was Bad Empanada said that Israeli Jews benefit from Israeli colonialism, and that's why they support it. But in another video, Bad Empanada said that colonialism is inherently unsafe. So how does that make any sense? Do you think there is not an element of risk to benefit? Have you ever heard the phrase risk versus reward, the most basic element of human advancement under basically every economic system that has ever existed in human history? People are happy to take risks to derive benefits. There's no way you actually believe that. Do you believe that some settler on the American frontier who moved from a slum in England to steal Indian land, that he was not deriving benefits while simultaneously putting himself at risk in doing that? So that's just a fucking stupid talking point. That's obviously did not prove that I think that I contradicted myself there by saying that I said that it's riskier to live in Israel than it isn't to live in New York. There's no contradiction between that and the fact that you benefit from living in Israel as a Jew because you were given a ton of benefits at the cost of Palestinians. What a ridiculous argument. This is just one element of what I said. These sorts of liberals who call themselves anarchists, who need to think that no one benefits from bad things. The only case where they might admit that someone benefits from bad things are capitalists, because capitalists for them are this tiny abstract group that no one they know or will ever interact with is a part of, and hence that makes them okay to blame. But imagining that like a supposedly normal person, a normal everyday Israeli, could be benefiting from doing something horrible, that's a line they are not willing to cross, especially because they're Jewish. Jews cannot do anything wrong, they're exceptional. The second point that this genius tried to make is that if you say that Israel benefits Israeli Jews, then you are supporting ethno-nationalism because Israel itself argues that it benefits Israeli Jews. Now, this is an argument that can only make sense to you if you think that you should support anything that benefits you. And that's the extent of your politics. Now, personally, that's not the extent of my politics. So, yeah. I mean, that argument was easy to deal with, wasn't it? Do you think that he's arguing as if what justifies Israel is the idea that it benefits Jews? You can only believe in that in two circumstances. One, you think that Jews are special and that whatever benefits them is uniquely justified, which I'm sure there's an element of here. And two, you think that anything is justified if it benefits you or your class of person or whatever. And if you believe that, I mean, I guess you believe in capitalism, it benefits capitalists. I guess you believe in monarchy, it benefits the monarchs. I guess it's justified for them to pursue their own interests by upholding those systems. I mean, after all, it benefits them. Now, this might come as a shock to you, but the reason why I oppose colonialism is not because it doesn't benefit the colonizers. It does. It very much does. That's why they participate in it. That's why they travel from far and wide to participate in it, despite the risks that I've talked about. Because it benefits them greatly. It benefits them handsomely. That's the entire reason why it's done. But I'm not against colonialism because it benefits the people carrying it out. I'm not against colonialism because it's bad for the people who are carrying it out. I'm against colonialism because it comes at the cost of a fucking massive amount of other people. You harm others to derive self-benefit. The basic principle is the exact same as that of the broader system of capitalism, which you pretend to be against, but which you're clearly not actually against. It's just the dumbest arguments I've ever seen in my fucking life. Do you think the thing that's bad about ethno-nationalism is that it doesn't actually benefit the group that it claims to benefit? I don't think that's the bad thing about it at all. I think that it excludes and murders and steals from everyone outside of that imagined group. So, yeah. What a dumb fucking moron. What a stupid argument. And this entire logic can only come from two places, as I said. One is Jewish exceptionalism. You think that Jews are special and uniquely entitled to do things that would otherwise be impermissible, and thus, if you acknowledge that something is good for the Jews who engage in it, that means that it can't be wrong, it can't be incorrect. So his emotional senses are hurt, because for him, the only valid reason to be against Zionism is if it was bad for Jews. So he has to imagine a world where it is bad for Israeli Jews to do Zionism, when it's just factually not. Again, he has to resort to idealism, pure idealism, avoiding material analysis of reality, where clearly, by any reasonable metric, Israelis benefit greatly from doing colonialism in Israel, obviously. And the second possible reasoning stems from that as well. It is this sort of desire to posture as a radical, to posture as being against the status quo, as going against the grain, but ultimately being uncomfortable with the idea that yours, and people like you might benefit from that status quo. So in order to try and make yourself feel better about that, you need to construct this alternate, non-existent reality where the only people who benefit from the status quo are this like tiny little group of elite capitalists. And there's no one in the first world, there's no one in the colonies, there's no like supposedly regular people who derive any benefits from the systems of colonialism and imperialism. And the effect of this obvious lie, which you can easily disprove by just analyzing fucking reality in any sort of objective manner, is to get people complacent, to push them away from actually diagnosing the problem, let alone fighting against it. So in function, you are just a generic liberal capitalist who is going to maintain the status quo until the end of eternity, not just in Palestine, but in the entire world, because you drive people away from realizing what the fucking problem is, and you lead them towards this incredibly stupid idealistic notion that you're somehow going to demolish imperialism by appealing to this idiotic notion that it's bad for the people who actually benefit from it, when, it very clearly is fucking not. They want to spread this idiotic idea that the way to fight capitalism, the way to fight imperialism, is to sit down and have a reasoned chat with, like the American petit bourgeois, the American factory worker making $80,000 a year, the Israeli who just moved in to a Palestinian house in the West Bank, You sit down with them and you have like a reasoned talk with them about how actually this system that got them to where they are, that gave them these perverse benefits, is actually somehow bad for them. And that's not going to happen. And every time that you and liberals like you spread this notion while posturing as if you're actually against this system, you are actively causing harm. And not just perpetuating Zionism, though obviously you are doing that, but perpetuating imperialism and colonialism forever. I'm not going to say that you help Zionism. I'm going to say that you are a Zionist. I'm not going to say that you help imperialism and colonialism. I'm going to say that you are an imperialist and a colonialist, because that is the effect of these idiotic ideas that you attempt to spread, thus far, luckily, unsuccessfully. Now, it will not come as any surprise to you that in this video, despite the fact that my video, that he obviously did not respond to in any reasonable way, dealt very extensively with things like the Palestinian right of return and stuff like that. He doesn't mention this at all in his video, because the fact of the matter is he's against them. If you told him that an Israeli would have to like endure material consequences, material harm for Palestinian liberation, because a lot of them live on Palestinian land in Palestinian homes and then they have to leave. You know, where they leave to is their own fucking problem. I don't give a shit. You should neither. He doesn't address that at all. He doesn't mention it at all. Because to someone like this, it's literally unthinkable that there should be any, like, just the basic concept of someone getting their fucking house back from those who stole it. That can't happen. Because it would inconvenience this imagined misled Israeli. And if it can convince you that the Israeli is just misled rather than malicious and fully conscious of what they're doing and why they're doing it, it lulls you into a complacency where you will never diagnose the problem, let alone support the only real solutions for it. That's why he just completely avoids that topic, despite like literally 20 fucking minutes of the video that he pretends to be responding to about me being dedicated to it. It being mentioned at every opportunity. So yeah, it's a fucking moronic liberal. Generic polycule liberal and anarchists and anyone who calls himself a Trotskyist. It doesn't mean that I don't think Trotsky wrote good stuff and did good stuff. The invasion of Ukraine, Trotsky, A+. Let me give you a medal. But like people who actually call themselves Trotskyists, they are one and the same as the anarchists in function. And this is one of those guys. He's 100% a socialist alternative member. I can tell from the accent. Whenever you see an article about how we need to unite with the Israeli working class, it's a Trotskyist. And this is one of those guys.